Damian Gracia, Big Gold Belt Media.
Hi,
Good
Damien.
afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
How you doing?
Love the background.
Awesome.
Thank you. I wanted to just make sure I didn't forget the actual title, so I put it behind me. But no, as a person that has moved around a lot in my life, this story was very important to me. So I know it's important to a lot of other people. So I want to go behind, or at least get from you guys' perspective, the way you crafted the story to make it different than a typical new kid in the neighborhood story as it relates to Franklin.
First of all, we try to stay true to the comic strip. Again, Franklin goes back to 1968 when Harry Glickman wrote my dad and said, "Hey, it's time for you to put a black character in the comic strip," and he did, to much surprise to a lot of people. So from that, we started to craft the story because we think people really want to know about Franklin. He's one of the top characters in the comic strip. People love him, and yet he's the only character really, other than I'd say Pigpen, that was really well grounded in his own self. He's fine with who he is. He's an intellectual. He comes in with no baggage, and we see this relationship form. That's what made it fun to work with.
He also Franklin's character speaks to the camera.
Yes.
We realize that to tell a story, this is a kid we know. He's known the world over, but yet no one knows him. And we just felt that to tell the story properly, he'd have to do something no other Peanuts character has ever done, which is talk directly to the camera, not through the whole thing, but at certain key points, just address what they call breaking the fourth wall. And in the industry, he breaks the fourth wall and addresses and tells the story of his life to the viewer. That forces the viewer to deal with him directly as a human being. It's very interesting. So you're not witnessing action take place as you would an ordinary animated piece. It's stopping so that he can say, hey, you, and you go, well, yes. And I think it distinguishes the piece.
Yeah. I like what you were saying about that you moved around a lot too. And it's like there's this urge, if you're a kid who's moved into a new place, to try to make friends as fast as possible.
Right.
And it's just surface. And, over the course of this, he learns, because he hangs out with Charlie Brown, who's a kid who is always authentically himself. Franklin learns, like, I can be who I am, a full-rounded person, happy, sad, angry, frustrated, and someone will still like me, even if I share all those sides of me, so that even if he were to move again, luckily he doesn't, he would be able to take that with him to find deeper friendships. And so I think that that's a really cool thing to show, in terms of how friendships work.
Yeah.
That's true, because actually for me, as I was watching it, as an adult, as opposed to, let's say I was younger, seeing every character have a hint of authenticity where they're true to themselves. You were saying just Franklin's true to himself. Charlie Brown is that kind of linchpin to everybody. And even Pigpen, when Pigpen showed up, authentically himself. And as an adult, that's a really good lesson to learn. I can only imagine how that's going to affect, the younger audience. And being in the authenticity part, I know putting the beach ball scene was important based on the origins of Franklin. Was it a no-brainer to include that, or was there like a way that maybe you wanted to craft it for the newer audience?
No, that was probably the starting point. We knew we wanted to work around the original comic strip, began from 68 and the beach ball and then meeting, and then build upon that. So we started that and then just kind of built the story around that starting point. And then we actually kind of worked backwards, thinking, well, where did Franklin actually come from? And then we tell the story of him leaving and getting in the Ford station wagon and heading out down Route 66 and seeing everything. But I think an important point that you bring out is that when you're an adult, and we write these things for adults as much as children. When you're an adult and you go to a room with strangers, the first question that people invariably ask is, what do you do? Right? What do you do? And you define yourself upon what you do, what you've accomplished.
Yeah.
Kids don't do that. When kids meet each other, it's like, what music do you like? Do you like skateboarding? It's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's the nice thing when you see this show. You see that, yeah, you can bond. You don't need to find out what somebody does to elevate themselves within that group of rooms. They can just be who they are. And that's what's nice within the Peanuts gang. They are who they are, and yet they all get along.
That's a great point, Craig.
Yeah.
Craig was also great about using what is known as the original canon, what has already been done by Charles Schulz. So important. He's not just a custodian of an archive or something like that. He's a child of the creator of the most iconic work ever done. And he's living it. So when we're working together, I'm new to this world. I'm a cartoonist. I work alone, and I come in as a collaborator for the first time, and I've got to listen more than I speak. I got to hear what they're all saying. I've got to understand what Craig says when he says, well, what does the original canon say? It says that's where you start. You're starting with good ingredients. You have to work hard to make a bad meal. So the canon is so important to creating not just this teleplay, all the Snoopy Presents, all of the Peanut specials throughout time. That canon that Sparky Schulz came up with, is a work of brilliance to this day.
Wow. I mean, I'm darn near speechless.
This keeps happening.
Snoopy Presents Welcome Home, Franklin. Thank you so much for the gift, gentlemen. This was a gift to all of us Peanuts fans that we grew up with. So thank you.
Oh, thanks for saying
Thank you.
that.
Thank you.